What I think is that if you look at 2017 or even like 2018 and the daily chart of Bitcoin, it's just not the same kind of supernova framework that we're all necessarily familiar with. And I would say, yeah, like it's going to be a supernova. Like it looks like it could potentially be a supernova. But for me, like it's so choppy, it trades at all hours of the day. So with like OTCs, it's not going to look like Rscf where it's just like straight up, straight down, like very smooth. Like just think about it like as a panic, right? CYDY is Rscf, like kind of smooth, and Mmedf's like choppy, like kind of more unpredictable, kind of like Bitcoin.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Steady Trade. We have Jack back with us again. He's alive. He's healthy.
Guys.
We missed you. What have you been up to the last 2 weeks?
Trading's been great, but other than that, my health hasn't been so good. Had mono and strep throat. I think I started feeling my symptoms right after Thanksgiving. I didn't really do too much for Thanksgiving, so I don't think I got it when I was out or anything. Not really sure where or how I got it, but I got strep and mono. Started getting really bad December 1st and basically was out of commissions for like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Throat was so bad, hurt so bad, had no energy. But I was still trading because there was insane opportunity every single day. And honestly, I think the sickness kind of helped with my mindset. Like I wasn't being aggressive or cocky or anything at all. And I was sizing up just naturally, not really caring how the trade went. And I'm having, best week was Thanksgiving week, new best week, December 1st. Last week was almost tied with the first week of December. And now I'm on track for new best week this week. So just it hit my stride, and honestly, like mono and strep kind of helped me. Been out of the Tim Challenge chat room, been talking to like less traders throughout the day, and it's really just helped me zone in and just focus on myself. So just going to keep it going, feeling better now. So that's good.
Awesome, man. Congrats. You're a trooper.
Yep.
Yeah, makes you sound like getting sick is a good thing.
Honestly, like, I don't know, like, because my trading just got so much better this month. Like, this is so far my best month, like, ever blown out of the water by any other months. And I am going to keep the amount disclosed right now because I don't want to get it in my head, but we're only halfway through, so let's keep it going.
Yeah.
You're the man.
For the viewers, Jack told me it's a lot. It's a lot. So it's what kind of market we're in right now.
Yeah.
How about you, Matt? How we doing?
Doing good. I mean, like it's not perfect. I wouldn't say like it's still definitely, making mistakes and learning, but just the amount of opportunity out there is crazy. And yeah, like it's really easy to like get caught up in it and be like, oh, like I could be doing better. I'm not doing super good. Like I see everyone like crushing it right now. But like for me, like you guys are crushing it. Like I'm doing great, but you guys are doing much better. But like even if I look back to like a year ago, my results like this month are just like absolutely crazy, blown out of the water compared to like just where I was a year ago. And yeah, I mean like that's what's important, like your individual growth. So even like looking at the three of us, if you're watching this, like, use it as inspiration, but like don't expect you to be putting up these numbers or making these trades the same way we are today. Maybe you will in a year or 2 years. But yeah, just so like even I struggle with that because I'm in this little Zoom call with some superstars here. So
oh, but that's such a great point. Just like literally I think a lot of this year's just want to do so good was just from last year's struggle through those 6 months. Like I grew my account from 29K to like 130K in my first like 6 months when I started trading with Dom. It was like September 2018 to February 2019, March 2019. And then it was just flat. And I didn't make $1 for like 6 months straight. Or I made a little bit, but nothing like meaningful. And like that stretch was just so painful, like grinding, working just as hard, if not harder than when I did to make the money before. So now like when this opportunity is here and like this year, like I owe it to myself to try it like as hard as I can and do the best that I can. So that's kind of my mindset and everything. But just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because for those traders who weren't around what was it? Yeah, I mean, pretty much May to really November, December 2019. Yeah, the OTC market was like just dead. I mean, that's really what forced me to really start learning NASDAQs, because I knew if however long this lasted, I needed to trade another market. I needed to get better in another market. Right now we're seeing, at least I'm seeing, the most liquidity I've ever seen in OTCs in general. I think I mentioned this last episode with Matt. But the liquidity back in 2019 for that, the second half of 2019, I mean, it was awful. Like I would go days without taking a trade, or if I did take a trade, it was on some liquid, non-ideal setup. And considering how much bigger my accounts are now than last year, like I wouldn't even be able to take the trade, because liquidity wise, it just wouldn't even be worth it for me. Whereas now, like Jack just said, sizing up and really pushing it, me seeing both sides of the market, this month in December has been, my best month ever, because I've seen the liquidity and how great it is this month. And I know, maybe I'm not going to be in my comfort zone in terms of the size I'm going to take, but I'm going to force myself to do it and be super focused on still making good trade plans, because the liquidity is there. And yeah, maybe I'm going to risk 2 or 3 times what I'm normally allowed to risk. But at the same time, I'm always risked a very small amount to what I should be risking anyway with my account size. And so then, like I said, given the liquidity, I just really pushed it. And we'll talk about in this episode, but Mmedf really shook me up, because I just took size that like I wasn't ready for, even though, I was trying to do it to really push this opportunity, but it ended up backfiring. So some plays worked really well, but some didn't, because I just wasn't ready yet. So yeah, we'll go into that later, but yeah, just pushing yourself to get bigger size, which is certainly what I've done. And it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. Well said, boys. That's all I got. I think we can hop on over to those charts and start breaking some stuff down here. All right, I'll go over Shmp. So Shmp, Shmp, this is a former runner. If you go back, I think it was early 2019, like February. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely crazy run from like literally 0 to over $1 a share. So like that's crazy move. And when stocks move like that in the past, they're called, former runners, and people remember that and they're more likely to run again. So based on that run, the breakout on this chart was like textbook. It was beautiful. The only thing that was really missing was like a PR to like really bring some volume in. So, I mean, still kind of watching it in case like they do PR, because like the chart setup was just so nice. Over that 16-17 breakout level, there's just some very clear support levels, and then all the way up into the 18, 19, 20 breakout level there. Some really great ads too, and it just went on a multi-day run, just solely based on that like very clean breakout. The volume wasn't anything spectacular, but just when there's breakouts that set up that clear and OTC market is hot on top of that, all that combination kind of just led to this awesome run. And I had a really good trade on it. I got in at like 16, 17 and sold most of it into like the low 20s. But the real hero of this trade is Dom. He's not on this episode. He was on a couple episodes ago. But he got in some really big size down near 16, 17, just because you can see on the left side of the chart, just all that support that built up. So he just trusts that support. And as it started working, he added into the trade and he stuck to his plan. He was like more or less thinking we could run up to 30, and he ended up selling the vast majority of his shares like in the mid 29s for basically 100% gain. Absolutely monster trade. That's his biggest trade to date. I won't share the total because I don't think he doesn't like to share numbers, but just really great technical trade, great breakout, well executed. So I thought I'd give him some props here.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. That's, textbook his favorite stock and favorite chart setup. Love to see it. Yeah. I also did, I took some shares on the 16 break too, but unfortunately for me, I was just trigger happy just to sell in the, low to mid 20s, and I didn't have as much size, but still ended up being a nice trade for me. So I'll take it. And for me too, like, something I always think about is when you do size up, like the liquidity really needs to be there. So for Shmp, like down there, it was trading like 6 million shares a day. So for me, I just can't kind of size up on something like that. And that's another thing to think about, like when you are growing as a trader, like liquidity really matters. Like Kyle was kind of saying when he was sizing up, just because the liquidity is there. But liquidity and like filling really is everything, because a liquid stocks, just these OTCs, you got to be careful sometimes.
Yep. It's funny we're talking about Shmp because this run right here was probably the peak of what we just talked about. You know, Jack said the height of, you know, January, February, and March of 2019, where you know, he made his 60 to 100 grand or whatever, and then it just died off. Like this was like the peak of it, you know. So it's funny that we're in, you know, similar if not more hot to OTC market now, and it's running again. So that's kind of cool to see come a full circle there. Mmedf, like I said, and previously before we got into the charts, you know, huge runner on what is a, you know, medical mushroom company. They have no sales because it's not legal to sell shrooms, mushrooms yet, but like, of course, similar to how weed companies were, say, you know, 5-10 years ago, this is a similar trend now where there's found to be some clinical benefits to medical mushrooms and this and that. So there's companies like Mmedf kind of trying to make a product out of that. And it's ran huge, right? We had an offering here at around 100 or $1.30 back about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I didn't think much of it. I thought the play was over. Next thing you know, we're breaking over $2 and we just totally start running huge. And this first red day here, you know, the intraday kind of shot me out a little bit. I did profit on it because I was luckily taking partial pieces off into these dips. But the fact that we were having our first red day and we we're holding up so well, I ended up covering to the close because I thought, you know, even though we're extended, the last thing we should be seeing is it holding near its highs. Like we should easily be seeing it sell off if it wants to have a solid red day. So I covered, and then the next day, what do you know? Like we hold $3 and we just start squeezing, right? We just start going and going and going. Come into, what is this, Monday now? Right? We just go even more. Like we just squeeze, total supernova move. And at this point, I'm looking to be aggressive, right? We're trading, you know, 10, 20 million shares a day. You rarely ever see an OTC like this trade this much volume at this high of a price of, you know, $4 to $5. And I thought to myself, like, if I can be there for when it's right, and I still pick a good risk level and I make a good trade plan, you know, I can make a lot, you know, given the liquidity and how ideal this trade is. And so I took you know, I think at my highest peak, I had 50,000 shares, which is probably my biggest position for me. Again, I was risking more. I was willing to lose anywhere between, you know, $3,000 to $5,000 on this trade. But it just got the best of me, right? So I had like, I think about 30,000 shares into this pull. And so at 380, you know, I'm up well over like 20 or 30 grand. And this is the part where sizing up makes a difference. Doesn't make a difference, but it shouldn't make a difference, but it does, where I'm just looking at the chart. I'm looking to trade the chart. I'm looking to trade the price action. I don't care what my P&L is, right? But when you have bigger size, it's like, oh, this is new, right? I haven't seen that number before. So chart-wise, I'm thinking this will go lower, right? And look, in hindsight, 2 days later, I'm 100% right. But all of a sudden, we start bouncing huge like this, right? And so when I give back so much unrealized profit because my size is so much bigger, all of a sudden it becomes very difficult for me to just focus on the chart anymore, right? So I screwed up. You know, I only covered like a less than a fifth of my position down here in the low 380s, and we bounced all the way back to my entry. My entry was like 430, 440ish at the time, and I was adding into this bounce as well, so I brought my average down. So yeah, I pretty much, and I ended up covering into the close because I thought like this bounce is way strong, or it's way stronger than I thought. You know, they could totally gap this up, and if they do, like I'm going to be in a very tight, you know, rough position, given the size I had, and I panicked out. So instead of swinging maybe a smaller, more conservative position, which is what I should have done because the next day they put out an offering, I covered it all. So it's just one of those things where sizing up is a constant battle with yourself because the emotions and the maybe bad tendencies as a trader that you had when you first started out trading, might come back because now it's a whole other level of liquidity and money on the table. And of course, I'd like to think I'm just like this robot who doesn't care and doesn't be affected by that. But the reality is, like, I'm a human being, you know. So when I see this chart move this way and I have this size that I have, I mean, I just totally butchered it. You know, I gave back, you know, multiple thousands of dollars, which again, it sucks, but I'm not, the last thing I want to do is beat myself up. The best thing I could do is learn from it. So, and Jack actually told me this, like, there's no pain without no gain. Like, I'm sure you've heard that cliche saying, but the reality is it's true. So the fact that I had a lot of pain giving back a lot of gains on this ticker, it just leaves me that much more prepared for the next time to be able to handle that size, handle that liquidity, and just be prepared for the next time. So.
Good lessons. I struggled with this one. I wasn't trying to short it, but just buying the dips. It was just like it was choppier. It wasn't like clean panics. Wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were certainly opportunities, but what I usually look forward to really just like getting a panic is something like we saw in like CYDY, which again, like those are like once a year, twice a year opportunities. But I thought this one had the potential just because we saw the daily chart. The run was absolutely outrageous. I was thinking we could see, you know, a 50% drop. And a really hard bounce, and it was just really choppy. And I mean, it held the key levels even on that really big dip. It ended up holding the green red level, but I just stayed on the cautious side and totally like didn't trade it because I was just looking for a bigger play. Happens, you can't nail them all.
Yeah, I can go over my best trade on it, which was a long, and I think my new best long trade. So I started getting involved. If you pull up the daily, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting involved the day after it broke out. I saw it there perk up that first time near the breakout. That was on a Friday though, when I was really sick, and I did want to swing it, but I just missed it. And then the next day, I was pretty convicted. And if you closes, like it wicked really hard. Like if you see that day right there. So I got chopped out, and unfortunately I missed that long on the initial breakout. So coming into it, I was already experiencing a little bit of FOMO. Yeah, I was buying that 210-ish level, and I sold near the low of the day there. Unfortunately, it did hold $2, then gapped up and went the next day. Didn't trade it that day. Didn't gap it up that day either, but as it started kind of failing this day, I was looking for the first red day the next day. So the same day that Kyle got chopped up on it, I got chopped up on it too for a small gain. And I ended up swinging a little bit of my shares overnight. And once I saw it at the open, I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm wrong. And if I look at a 2-day chart on this, like ignoring the daily chart, I'm like, this is bullish. Like we soaked 260 4 times. And I feel like we just piled in all the shorts. So I was like, you know what? We could see a speed up and like squeeze. And I ended up getting long that first dip near green to red at 295. And then from there, I was just selling into, you know, big upswings and adding back into dips. And then it ended up going parabolic, shares up there. And actually had time to go short and cover into the wash back down, flip there. It was like the 260 level I kind of saw in my head. And just going into the weekends, I was like, everything usually gaps up and runs huge on Monday. Like this isn't a hot sector. So I took like 29,000 shares long at 351, just risking 350. Like my risk was literally like a penny or like a gap down, and ended up gapping up huge. And I sold some at the open, re-longed it on the dip, which held the previous day's high. And then from there, I just sold along the way and sold the last of my shares near high of the day. But unfortunately for me, I was like, then I just got too bullish on it, frankly. Like I was just like, all right, it's holding again. So I started going long into the midday consolidation, and it ended up failing hard there, and I had a decent sized position, so I took some slippage, and I ended up giving back maybe like a fifth or sixth of my gains, but it was nothing major. And then ended up getting short, Good size there into the failure, and did the same thing with Kyle, and it just came back. And I covered just because if you look at the daily again, the candle closed above the open price. So meaning that day, if you see the top, like it closed slightly green. And my thesis was like, if the candle closed red, I would want to swing. But if it closed green, there's too much potential for a gap up. So moving on to Rscf, going into Monday, it did gap up there. And just looking at the daily, like this is like, these are the daily charts like I dream of. Like honestly, this is perfect 4-day extension from sub $1 to, you know, mid threes. And all along the way, I'm very familiar with this stock because I was trying to long it, and it was the same kind of stock where they would just shake out big, close it weak, kind of yank it back down. If you can see that day, I did a really good job, not pre-exhausting. I wasn't down on the ticker at all going into that 4th day where it did collapse, and ended up just dabbling into it pretty much all morning. I always had like a position on, but I was trading around like a course, so I would only add size on when like maybe I thought it was like not going to go any higher, and ended up just chopping around for a little bit, but nothing major. And then I ended up being right when it did crack that 290 support level. That's where I started just sizing into it as it was weaker and weaker. Getting the intraday, where I feel like a lot of people were getting caught up. Like the intraday is choppy, it keeps chopping back, it's a liquid. And all I was thinking was daily. And the daily was gorgeous, right? The daily was A+, the intraday wasn't A+. So for me, my plan was just to swing, because seeing how it went up every single day for 4 days straight, I was like, oh, I can definitely have a second red day. And immediately I compared the stock to DCGD, which is now GRNF, which is a crappier ticker that ran last year. And it had the same kind of price action as Rscf on the intraday. And all I could remember was how hard DCGD sold off. I mean, if you see that drop right there, we dropped from $2 down to 60 cents in the matter of, 2 days. So with Rscf, I was like, this thing is going lower than anybody thinks. And I ended up being dead right with that thesis. And I still covered way. The good thing is like I took a good amount of size, and I just held through like all the chop. I wasn't focusing on like my P&L or anything else. I was just focusing on the trade, my conviction and my thesis. Ended up taking off my shares from like a 270 average, ended up taking like $1 a share at like 170 right there. And then I started playing it long a little bit into like the 150 area, but as you can see there yesterday, it just didn't bounce at all. And once again, I didn't pre-exhaust myself. I ended up having a small gain over a little bit, Kyle. So today, had that morning washout, and just me focusing on the daily over the intraday. 3rd red day, I'm looking for that reversal and that, that bounce, number 6 pattern, number 5, number 6 pattern. And once it started going sideways above VWAP right there, I was like, I wasn't risking that 105 or anything like that. I bought risking low a day, knowing that's probably not going to break low a day at this point, like morning. And as it started holding VWAP all day, I was slowly adding more size as I gained trust in that 92 level. And then we ended up getting that ramp through green to red into the close there. And I ended up selling 5K or fourth my position into the 140s there. And I'm still swinging 3/4 because if you look at this chart, like I'm playing the daily closed green. So odds are this stock probably has a morning spike into the high ones, mid ones tomorrow. And that's where I'll look to sell my position. At this point, I'm moving my risk down to the open of that green candle, which is the support level, kind of where my entry is from. It's like 115, I think. Like the body of the green candle there. Yeah, so like that 115 area, like just above you up. Don't really expect it to go red or anything, but if you look on the front side too, it's known for those morning spikes and then like having really harsh dips. So I want to be out my position into the morning so I don't get, shaken out into those hard dips that it did on the front side. So that was my trade there. Second best short trade for me. So, and I still left, almost $1 a share on the table. So
You're the man.
need some more of those.
I might have to start shorting those.
I traded it similar to how Jack did as well. It's keeping the daily chart in mind on something like this that is so choppy intraday is huge. Because I did the similar thing where it was chopping in this area here, and I was just I was losing sight of the big picture, and I was seeing other traders that I know of maybe mention to me, oh yeah, I covered. And, I started getting antsy. I'm like, why isn't it breaking down, this and that? And I'm just thinking, just look at the daily chart, right? Just keep this picture in mind. Like, we are up from 50 cents. We've had almost 4.5 green days in a row. This is just the first red day. And so I also swung overnight and covered, unfortunately, pretty early in the 170s as well. And again, you could argue like just keep your eyes on the daily chart, because if I was watching the daily chart instead of intraday, like I probably could have swung it down to maybe more of like the 150s. No, definitely wouldn't have guessed it going below a buck today, but it did. So it is what it is. It's following the framework set up pretty clearly. Like Jack said, he's long. I'm not long it, but he is long it for number 5 first green day, potentially spike. If this thing wants to spike to maybe above 2 over the next 2 or 3 days, it could be a good number like short bounce, number 6. And then the number 7 where it just fades off back into oblivion. So certainly something they'll keep watching into the coming days and week or two. So
killer.
Matt, do you want to go over BITW?
Yeah, so I'm no crypto expert like the kid wearing the Bitcoin hat, but but Bitcoin just passed 21,000. I just took a peek at it, so it's still on a tear above all-time highs. And with that just comes like madness, right? So I was just kind of beginning my trading journey, like dipping my toes in the water that last time Bitcoin ran, 2017. But we saw some crazy runners. Most notably GBTC. So when I started seeing this one take off, I don't know, like do they IPO on the OTC market? I'm not really sure, honestly, but it's like a new ticker. And I was immediately reminded me of GBTC, which seems to be the theme of this episode. Jack and Kyle have both brought up previous tickers that like reminded them of tickers that are running this time. But basically, last time GBTC wasn't split at this point, so it was like in the hundreds. It was in the thousands, wasn't it, back in the day?
Yeah, it was. I think it was like 600 at high. It was pretty high up at one point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's exactly what BitW reminded me of, is that run that you see Kyle highlighting there, kind of just around Bitcoin madness. So Bitcoin started breaking to new highs yesterday. Today it actually did it. But this one was just like, people are just like blindly basically buying this stock instead of Bitcoin because it's easier to buy this stock than Bitcoin, which is essentially the reason GBTC ran back in the day, same type of concept. And yeah, like, so basically this is a fund. And Bloomberg tweeted right before the market closed today, right before we started filming this, the value of the fund is like 386% more valuable than the actual Bitcoin and other coins that they own. So it's extremely overvalued. That doesn't mean like it's a scam or anything, in my opinion. It just means like people are just blindly buying this because they think they're going to make a ton of money off Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where this is going to go. Like, honestly, it consolidated kind of well today near highs. So we could definitely see a run blow off top tomorrow, the next day. but it's super overextended at this point. It's up from like $12 a share to 141 at this point, which is absolutely insane. Yeah, it's gonna be a really good short for you guys one day soon, that's for sure. So I played this a couple times, not really so much today as yesterday was the best opportunity. If you look at that OT swizzle between like that morning and then for like 2 hours during the midday, the $80 level became super, super clear. So I just bought into that, just bought over 80, risking the low. So I immediately was right on that position because I waited and watched the level 2 until I saw the 80 ask start getting chipped away. We had this hard pull. The one thing about BitW that I noticed just as I was trading it is on the way up, like usually the liquidity is okay, but the moment we start pulling back and see any weakness, the bids dropped off. And that's basically what happened here. So I think a lot of people were basically taking the same type of trade I was taking. The bid dropped off, they panicked out, basically went right back to my entry, but I didn't panic out because the way it consolidated and it actually just didn't quite hit my risk level. So I just stayed in it, trusted it. My size was reasonable at that point in time. I actually added a little bit on that dip because I thought that basically people were just panicking out because they weren't totally convicted and got scared when the bids dropped off. And then we continued, recovered like normal, and ran to new highs. And I ended up selling right around 90 before any of that wacky action because I was up like $10 a share, which was kind of crazy at the moment. But then this thing has just continued onwards, completely just like Bitcoin's gone up, but it has not gone up even remotely close to this one. So some pretty interesting action we have going on here, and it'll be interesting to see what happens the next couple of days on it. Anything to add, boys?
That's just the awesome inefficiency of the market we're in. You know, like, yes, this is crypto related, so it's going to follow, you know, long as Bitcoin keeps going up, this will probably follow. Right. Like Matt said, you know, it's Bitcoin. I mean, don't worry about this ticket. There's like a misprint here at 77. This is not the actual price, but I mean, it closed at like $80 yesterday and then closed today at 140. I mean, that's like, what, like 80% return? Like Bitcoin's not up 80% today. No crypto, like maybe not no crypto, but like almost all the main cryptocurrencies are not up 80% today. So that's just a huge inefficiency, which is why Matt traded it long, which is why me and Jack are watching this for a potential short. You know, it's not your typical penny stock, right? It's a you know, almost like an ETF in a way of cryptocurrency. But it's tradable. It's there. Like the inefficiency of penny stocks is showing itself here. So we're interested and we're watching. So it'll be fun to see what it does in the next coming days, weeks.
Agreed, especially with just all the Bitcoin stocks. Like we had some really strong gap ups and strength out of the gate, but no like super crazy follow through. And before we got on this call, I think Jack like really nailed it on the head. So I'll let him explain it. Like it's kind of just the beginning. Like in my opinion, I don't think people actually thought Bitcoin was going to break to new highs, and then they did it. Like it's over all-time highs now, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!" Like it actually happened. Now they're just like trying to catch up and figure out what to do.
For the record, I bought this hat when it was at like 13K, so it's no big deal.
Jack, so what are you thinking? We'll end on this. Just like what do you think's going on with these Bitcoin plays?
So what I think is that if you look at 2017 or even like 2018 and the daily chart of Bitcoin, it's just not the same kind of supernova framework that we're all necessarily familiar with. And I would say, yeah, like it's going to be a supernova. Like it looks like it could potentially be a supernova. But for me, like it's so choppy, it trades at all hours of the day. So with like OTCs, it's not going to look like Rscf where it's just like straight up, straight down, like very smooth. Like just think about it like as a panic, right? CYDY is Rscf, like kind of smooth, and Mmedf's like choppy, like kind of more unpredictable, kind of like Bitcoin. So just judging on my trading history on Bitcoin stocks, what I always expect is like I'm going to load and it's going to just go 100% the next day. Like on these OTC Bitcoin stocks, like MGTI, BTCS, BTSC, CBTC, DIGAFs, all these low OTCs, GBTCs, same thing. What I'm expecting is it to start a bullish uptrend and not kind of just like go up like 3 multiple green days, where we're going to have like some pullbacks, some red days, some shakeouts. So for me, my plan is I have a lot of the BTC, OTCs like MGTI, BTCS, BTSC, and a couple other ones, just small. And for my plan, it was just to take small size near the lows and risk kind of the daily support level. If you pull up MGTI, Kyle, I'll explain this one. So I would say that MGTI is probably like my favorite chart in the low price Bitcoin plays. And if you just scroll out a little bit more to, like 4 years. So this was obviously a big one. It went to like $8. And if you just think about it, like now we're at 4 cents, like 3 cents. And at this point, there's just like, what's it going to go to, like a cent? You know what I mean? So for me, I bought it at 3 cents, 2.9, and I'm just risking that daily support level there in the low twos. And as you can see, it kind of cleared like a triple top there at 4 cents. So I'm kind of expecting for it just to be like choppy and kind of just hold anywhere between 3, 4, 5 cents. And then like as we set levels and like as we kind of start forming that bullish daily chart, then that's kind of when I'll look for ads and maybe just sell those ads quickly, but hold that core. My plan is to hold that core from 3 cents till we get that parabolic daily, to where like it's, people are asking other people about Bitcoin and like how to get in, and just like if it's anything going to be anything like 2017, I just want to be prepared because history isn't identical, but it definitely rhymes, and everything's set up the same, like the Bitcoin chart, the time of the year, the overall world, with just everything going straight up. So that's my plan. MGTI, as you can see, there's some resistance up there, 12 cents. If you scroll back like 20 cents, 30 cents, like I don't know how high it's going to go. All I know is I'm waiting for that kind of parabolic daily, and the key is small size. So I don't let it, like it's a liquid. So it's going to be like emotional, like up and down. So just small size and just let it ride. And then if I do add, just kind of day trade those ads and just hold the core. That's kind of my thought on the overall sector. GBTC will probably see some inefficiency to the upside at some point where it goes parabolic. Once we see that, I'll be looking for a short play on that one. That one I'm going to hold off on the long because it requires way more capital. Where MGTI, I can just throw BTCS, BTSC, I can throw a smaller amount of money in there and just kind of let it go and kind of see what happens. But that's my plays.
Well said.
Love it.
Well, that's all I got today, boys. Anything else?
Same here.
No, that's a good one. Crazy market, man. So just got to keep it going.
Absolutely. I don't think this might be our last episode of the year now that I'm thinking about it. Next week's Christmas, the week after is New Year's.
Ooh. Wow.
Sad times.
I'll see you all in 2021.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, boys. 2020 was a hell of a year.
All right. Just stuff, man.
Absolute banger. Appreciate you boys coming on. As always, if you're new, make sure you like, subscribe. 2021. I have no idea if it's going to be like 2020, but there's no signs it's slowing down yet. So catch up on Twist the next 2 weeks. Leave us some comments, and we'll be ready to rock and roll come the new year.